If you're one of those poor, pathetic, scum-of-the-earth maniacs who think anime is way too long at a whole 23 minutes, then you might find this video very enlightening. Short-form anime have been in kind of a renaissance these past few years, and while I'm sure there were others prior to it, I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying was the first one I really watched and actually enjoyed every single week it aired. Now, continuing the trend of great short-form anime are the funniest and most romantic shows this season. Aho Girl and Tsurezure Children, or Tsurezure Children if you use the other title, respectively. Though there is, of course, a mix of both elements in each show to some extent. So you'll get a little bit of comedy in Tsurezure Children, but it's mostly romance. While Aho Girl will mostly be comedy, but it does also have a little bit of romance too. So to kick things off, let's talk about Aho Girl. This is a show that is entirely jokes every minute of its screen time. And while the situations the main character gets herself into are rote and boring if you just look at the script, the way Aoi Yuki gets the lines across make it work in a way that reminds me of why I love Konosuba's cast so much. The extremely expressive screeches and over-exaggerated screams. Wait. Wrong clip. There's a lot to be said for subtlety in some shows, but in a comedy like this, where the jokes begin and end sometimes in less than a minute, blowing your load at the highest caliber is important when diving into dumb situations well below the stupid line, so that they wrap all the way around to become funny once again. Aho Girl accomplishes this by having the butt of most of the jokes be the main character Yoshiko. Whenever she does something outlandish, the result is almost always her being punished by her best friend and straight man, Akun. Often with extreme prejudice and violence that seem to only be okay because Yoshiko dumps stats into Constitution at the cost of her intelligence. The rest of the cast is similarly given a single trait for their interactions, with the student council president realizing her life as a slut immediately after having a normal interaction with a boy just offering to help her up. Wait, that's actually pretty hot. The nice quiet girl unable to speak up for herself as she's dragged into Yoshiko's stupidity over and over again, until she finally gets fed up and explodes. This fucking hoe. And even the kids of the show playing the straight man to Yoshiko whenever they're together, somehow being more mature than the adult, or young adult, that Yoshiko's supposed to be. Oh, and Akun's little sister, who is just as stupid as Yoshiko is, to the little sister's eternal disappointment. And everyone else who she meets. And the viewer. I'm sorry, girl. Fucking cute, though. There's even a delinquent who comes to worship Yoshiko immediately after she latches onto him in a stupidity camaraderie trap that he just can't get out of. Now, normally these personalities as a checklist of stereotypical anime tropes would be incredibly annoying. But since the show is extremely short and their interactions with each other are, again, hugely disproportionate to normal situations, the humor shines through so much you can't help but just laugh at these stupid jokes landing over and over. And the best part is, even if one joke doesn't land, you're immediately swept to the next scene so another joke can take over and hit you again. Of course, this type of humor is not for everyone. And for the most part, none of it is really that clever. The interactions are stupid, and if you don't like those stereotypes I mentioned in the slightest, this show might be as heinous as it gets as viewers abandon it like the unwanted offspring of Comet Lucifer. Man, don't get me started on that show. Digression aside, the animation for Aho Girl is only just serviceable. Unlike Konosuba's constantly off-model squash and stretch, that enrich the over-the-top reactions that Kazuma and the rest of the cast give us in their show. Also, the music rarely does anything interesting to stand out. There's no specific track in mind that I can even think of. There's the typical doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop if something stupid's happening, but not really anything that would scream originality or epicness like Made in Abyss is doing in every single scene this season. And while music isn't as important to comedy like it would be to an adventure show like Made in Abyss, I still think some people will find it less than attractive in the show. In the end, while none of these issues that I brought up will bother me, and the OP changing every time is a neat thing to watch every week, even if I thought the first week was a little lazy, not everybody's gonna have the same experience with what I think is laugh out loud funny. It's the type of humor where you do a spit take at how stupid something is, rather than a clever joke or even a knowing wink. So don't go in expecting anything but stupidity and you'll probably come out okay. On the flip side of the comedic spectrum, while still retaining some small amount of humor, Tsurezure Children is one of the standout anime this season, simply because of how heart-rendingly adorable every single scene in the show has been so far. Condensed into 5-minute or so chunks, this show is about relationship after relationship, with each offering a different take on characters and motivations as they desperately attempt to become couples, and often succeed in a ratio that seems mildly excessive given a lot of these characters would have lived out sad lives alone instead of asking out the cute girl who was kind of interested in them and giving offhand signals that they were interested and the guy totally misses them, and oh my god, this is the anti-nisekoi. No wonder I like it. On the note of nisekoi, there is one couple who has yet to have both parties involved understand a mutual love. And despite my dislike of the constant misunderstandings that plague romantic comedies, especially in the case of gamers this season, I can't help but root for these two most of all. Simply because I get you, girl. I get you on a spiritual level. That said, if they draw it out any further, I'm gonna start becoming less satisfied with their relationship, and probably groan my way through their segments, at least personally. I mean, the joke's done. We get it. It's not entertaining, it's not funny. Just... ugh. However, the beauty of the show is that no matter how much you like or dislike a couple, you'll only be spending about 5 minutes on them before being whisked off to the next one. So unless you're just as cold-hearted as a politician rubbing your hands together in anticipation to kill millions for a few percentages off your taxes, you'll likely find something to enjoy in each episode. Really, the part of the show that draws me the most is that it's so much of a perfect world, where people can actually get together and ask each other out instead of just holding it in like in real life. There's a lot of wish fulfillment involved on the part of the viewer, and since there's so many relationships, there's going to be one that resonates with you above all others. Unlike Aho Girl, ironically despite the large number of characters, there isn't as much to say about the characters themselves because they are, again, just like Aho Girl, one-note characters. What's interesting here is the mixture of them, so the couples become the characters, rather than them on their own individually. I'm sure there's people who've memorized each and every name of even the most minor characters introduced in the show, but for my part, I can really only point to a relationship I like rather than any specific character. So I guess if you had to find a common strand threaded through both of these short-form anime, it's that they use the same tired character archetypes and stereotypes in every other anime we've ever seen, but they play them up in interesting or hilarious ways. For Aho Girl, they increase the severity of the stupidity up to 11, while Tsurezure Children decides to combine two bland characters and build comedy and romance on their interactions. To round out Tsurezure Children, the animation is suitably adorable, with bright colors even in the darkest scenes and a soft moe art style that suits a more romantically comedic show like this one. Also, I was actually kind of impressed with its willingness to not just show a kiss in the first episode, but also talk about sex in the same episode, and almost even showing it happening in a later episode. So the series seems to be treating the relationships as actual evolving things rather than just sticking to a status quo, at least so far. That could definitely always change in the future, knowing anime. All in all, these two shows are only around 15 minutes long, so you really do owe it to yourself to take a look at least the first episode, to get a feel for whether you'll enjoy it or not, because for all my praise, there isn't much evolution in terms of the joke. Every episode of Aho Girl will feature Yoshiko being an idiot and dragging somebody else down with her, and then getting punished later. While every episode of Tsurezure Children will focus on the romance between two characters, even if those characters change from episode to episode since the cast is so very large. They don't focus on the same characters every episode, so you'll get something at least a little different every time you tune in. Regardless of what you decide, I hope you all enjoyed this video. You can check out more reviews, insights, and shitposts on my channel, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button if you want to catch a video as I air them. If you want to talk to me about your favorite couple or moment from these two shows, leave a comment down below, or you can shout at me on Twitter because I desperately crave the attention of someone talking to me. Speaking of, share my videos with all your friends, so I have more people shouting insults at me on a daily basis than I already do. And, of course, as always, remember to enjoy the way you watch anime, because as long as you're having fun, that's all that really matters. I'll see you next time.